How's it going, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here, and today's video is 4 Steve Gadd drum grooves. Let's go. All right, drummers, if you don't know who Steve Gadd is, well then, I tell you, you better get back to school and learn, because he's literally one of the greatest drummers of all time. So deft in the way he plays. His grooves are fantastic. There's a lot to learn from. Great independence in his grooves and in his playing. He's also one of the most recorded drummers of all time. So many sessions from the 70s all the way to the present day, from artists like Chick Corea, James Taylor, Eric Clapton, and just a myriad of others. He's a fantastic player, and there's a lot to learn from. So let's get started with these grooves. The first groove I'm going to get into today is from a song called The Way Back Home, and it's a song he's performed with his band, the Gadd Gang. It's a pretty simple funk groove. He plays it very lightly, but then he goes off and solos around this tune, and it's also a great independence exercise. So let's get started. First thing you're going to notice about this groove is that it's open-handed, okay? I'm leading with my left hand. My right hand's playing the backbeat like this instead of your typical right hand over the left. If you're already an open-handed player, then this should be pretty easy for you. In its basic form, this groove is just 1 bar long. He morphs it as he plays throughout the song and his performances, but again, its basic form, it's just 1 bar long, all based around 16th notes. It all starts with the left hand. The motion of the groove is all in your left hand and your left foot, and this is where the independence comes in. So let me show you what the left hand and the left foot is doing. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? But here's the pulse. I'm going to play the pulse with my right foot. So for this demonstration, the kick drum will play all the quarter notes, and then you can hear how the left foot and the left hand are laying in there. Here we go. Your left hand and your left foot are playing the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th 16th notes of each bar. The 1 E and A. 1 E and A. And where the independence comes in is that the 3rd note, the 1 E and, is actually your left foot closing. This sounds harder than it is. I just want to point these things out. So the 3rd note of the 16th, the and, is played with a closed hi-hat, a chick sound, like that. So it's 1 E and A. 1 E and A. So your first stroke in your left hand is you actually hitting an open hi-hat. The 2nd note that you're playing, you're closing the hi-hat, making the chick sound, and the 3rd note you're playing is actually hitting the hi-hat closed, like that. So one more time. It's 1 E and Da. 1 E and A. Okay? And you put it up to tempo, and it sounds like this. 1 E and A, 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 1 E and A. Okay. Now, that's the hardest part of the whole groove. The rest of it is pretty simple. Your right hand plays the backbeat, beats 2 and 4. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and a 4 and a. Okay? And your right foot plays your typical beats 1 and beats 3 in its basic form, like this. 1, okay? That's really cool independence exercise in a very simple groove. So the key here is to make it funky, make it groovy, make it sit and pocket and morph. You'll notice there's lots of great YouTube footage of Steve playing this song with his band in various forms, improvising this groove. He's playing and vibing off the bass player. He's not doing that same simple pattern the whole time. He puts in a little bit more here, a little bit back there. He embellishes on the whole thing. But again, it starts with that basic form and then goes from there. Let me demonstrate how you can improvise your right foot, okay? Your left hand, your left foot, and your right hand stay exactly the same. Everything changes in your right foot, your kick drum. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can really take it anywhere you want as long as you've got that pocket, that time is good, and you have that backbeat right there on beats 2 and 4. It's great independence. You'll notice at certain points, wherever the kick drum beater lays in the 16th note, sometimes it'll sound like the groove is stopped, okay? Because you have those open holes in the left hand. So let me demonstrate this groove one more time. A typical tempo for this is around 90 BPM, but you can take it up a little bit depending on how you want to practice this. The key is to keep that left side of your body solid, okay, and free up your right side to groove. Basically freeing up your right side, your kick drum, your right foot, okay? One more time, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's get on to groove number 2. Okay, it's going to get a little bit harder now, but this is a classic Steve Gadd groove. Steve Gadd's Paradiddle groove. Sounds like this. Before I get into the details, I think it's really important to mention how soft you play these grooves. He's really good, Steve is really good at playing soft, and then when the accent needs to be there, you really hear and feel the accent. When he really wants to dig in, like when he's soloing, boy, he hits the drums as hard as anybody. But when he's playing these grooves, the reason you hear all these notes and the pocket is so deep is that he plays them just free. It's really soft and flowing, okay? It's not about hitting the drums hard, doing these specific kinds of things. Okay, and it's a great exercise on your drumming overall. If you can play soft like this with groove and vibe, well, you can take your drumming anywhere, high to low. So, this particular groove, the paradiddles are really just at the beginning. It's 2 bars long, and it starts with a regular old single paradiddle leading with your right hand. So, right, left, right, right. Right after that, connected to it, is an inverted paradiddle starting with your left hand, going left, right, right, left. Sounds like this. I'll play it with the hi-hat and the snare drum. Here's the first 2 bars. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. One more time. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. What's really cool about these grooves and Steve's playing overall is he takes basic rudiments and turns them into grooves on the drum kit. It all stems from his military drumming background. He's been playing since he's a young kid, but he had like an uncle in the Army band. Steve actually joined the Army in the late 60s and played in the Army band for a few years, so you could hear it in his playing, especially when we get to the groove for 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. You can really hear the rudiment and that sort of military style, but it's so funky. It's so deep and fat. And this groove, this paradiddle groove, is just like that. So once again, let me play the first 2 beats of this groove, the 2 paradiddles back to back. A regular paradiddle, right, left, right, right, and then an inverted left, right, right, left. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll also start feeling this when you get it up to tempo, that these paradiddles, the way you have the regular one and then the inverted, it sort of flows naturally, okay? your right hand just sort of moves in that motion. So it's not as hard as it may sound putting a regular and then an inverted right next to it. Another quick thing to mention about this groove is it really is in a halftime feel, okay? So you got that backbeat on beat 3, okay? Sort of like a typical 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 feel, okay? So, and you'll definitely hear that in the second bar because the snare drum hits on beat 3. But in the first bar, right after the paradiddles, the snare drum hits on the and of 3. And he also pushes the and of 4 with the open hi-hat and the kick drum. Check this out. See, that snare drum, that accented snare drum is on beat 3 and, the and of 3. Now, second bar, again, the snare drum's going to land right on beat 3, so right on that halftime backbeat. Let me quickly take you through the second bar here. It's pretty simple. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? Now again, I can't say this emphatically enough. This is the very basic form of these grooves, okay? You could take this a bunch of different places, and Steve does that as well. But again, second bar is just like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, let me put the 2 together. 3. Now the last thing to add to this, and you'll see him do it on the web when you go search this groove out, he adds 2 little, like a diddle at the very end as a pickup to the repeat of the pattern, okay? So it's just a little double stroke with your left hand leading back into the restart of the groove, like this. That's the basic form of the groove. Now you sort of like morph it a little bit. Give the accent, the backbeat a little bit more zing. You know, hit it a little bit harder. Maybe do a buzz instead of a diddle. You know, take this groove to a different place. Play the groove on the cymbal instead of the hi-hat. You can take this anywhere, okay? Something like this maybe. So once again, learn the basic form of the groove, play it, get it in your hands, and then make it your own. Elaborate on the drum kit with it. Take it all over the place. It's a lot of fun to do. All right, here we go. This is a classic. If you don't play this right, boy, it doesn't sound right. And nobody plays it as good as Steve Gadd. I don't care how good of a drummer you are. He's the best. He invented it, so no one's going to play it as good as him. But it's fantastic. This is 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Wish me luck. Here we go. So good, so fun to play. And if you can get this in your hand, in your muscle memory, boy, your drumming's going to just go to another level. What's so fun, again, is that it's open-handed, okay? It utilizes rudiments and a different way to play a backbeat. It utilizes a little bit of military-style drumming like I was talking about earlier. And again, it's just so much fun to play. 2 bars long, this groove is, and the first 2 beats of each bar are exactly the same every time. This is one of the few grooves that I've seen Steve Gadd play where he plays it pretty much the same way every time in a song. He doesn't really morph this particular groove too much. He plays it like it is, and then when they get to the chorus of the song, then he takes it, he goes to a completely different place. So again, the first 2 beats of each bar exactly the same. You're playing all of the 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a. 1 E and a 2 E and a. I'm going to first play it very slowly for you. Here we go. 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. 4. 3, 4. You'll notice, just like the first groove, he's utilizing the chick sound, the opening and closing of your hi-hat with your left foot. Beautiful independence right here, okay? You're really utilizing all 4 limbs to make a groove, which is really cool. Let's play the very first beat. 1 E and a, like this. 1 E and a. So you have kick drum, left hand, right hand, left foot. 1 E and a. 1 E and a. 1 E and a. The second beat, simpler, but it's leading with the left hand. It's 2 E and a. So it's left, right, left, kick. Hi-hat, snare, hi-hat, kick. 2 E and a. Put the 2 together. It's 3, 4, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3. You round out those first 2 beats by adding a kick drum on beat number 3. So those first 2 beats end with a double on the kick drum, okay? The key to this whole thing is to hear that chick sound, to hear your left foot play that note, okay? It's really important in this groove. I was over-exaggerating it right there, but again, it's really important in this groove. Now let's finish out the other 2 beats and put this whole thing together. So the first half, you do 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. On beat 3, the first time around, you also play a floor tom with your kick drum at the same time. Okay? Kick drum and floor tom play at the same time. And on beat 4, you play this pattern on the snare drum. Basically 2 32nd notes and 3 16th notes all together. 1 E and a ba-da-da-ba-ba. Let's play this whole first bar. 3, 4. Okay, that's it. Second bar, the first 2 beats are exactly the same. Okay, but you just finish off the end a little bit differently. This time on beat 3, you don't play the floor tom at the same time. The kick drum plays by itself. And on beat 4, you hit a big flam on the 2 floor toms on beat 4 exactly. And then the last 2 beats, you're playing a double stroke roll. So 32nd note double stroke roll. Right, right, left, left, to get you back into the beginning of the groove again. So I'm going to play the second bar. This is what the second bar sounds like. 3, 4. So to reiterate this, the first 2 beats of each bar are exactly the same. It's just the second 2 beats are a little bit different, just so it doesn't sound the same every time around, right? Let's put it all together just like this. 1, 2, 3. I think another important thing about this groove is when you play like that double stroke roll at the end of the second bar, those 32nd notes, is to make sure they're all really heard. Don't get lazy with your left hand. I have a tendency of doing that. Sometimes it sounds like the first 2 notes are accented because I'm not concentrating a little bit. The muscle memory's not doing its thing with my left hand sometimes. I think it's important that you do that with this particular groove just because it keeps it flowing, all right? When you hear Steve play this, when he plays that double stroke roll at the end of this groove, you hear every note. I think it's really important. One more time. 2, 3, 4. One little extra thing you can add to this groove, if you so choose, if you want to, is after you play the first couple of beats, where you have to make the chick sound with your left foot, you can also start just playing time with your left foot. If you listen to the original song by Paul Simon, there's a tambourine playing like the pulse in there. That's like an overdub, or a percussion player was playing at the same time. If you want to, you can add that sort of thing to the end of this groove, sort of like this. One last thing I want to say about this particular groove before we move on to groove number 4 is the kick drum. When you play that double at the end of the first 2 beats, 1 E and a 2 E and, you want to try not to have them both the exact same volume. I think it just adds to the groove and the flow of the sound. So it really goes. That's one great thing that Steve Gadd does. It looks like he's playing so softly with so much finesse. But those little bits of volume up and down, a little bit of accent here, a little bit of this there, just gives the groove so much life and so much pocket. And if you could somehow get that into your playing, no matter what, if you're playing this groove or something completely different, boy, it really adds a lot of flavor to the sound of a drum kit and the sound of any groove. Let's get on to groove number 4. Again, another classic Steve Gadd groove, and this requires 4 sticks. It actually doesn't require 4 sticks, but this is how he does it. So I figured I'd do it too, and then we'll break down the grooves. Here, this is from the song Late in the Evening. Classic Steve Gadd Mozambique groove. Sounds like this. The reason he uses 4 sticks is so he can sound like more than one person playing this groove. So the groove all is based around 4 on the floor, on the kick drum and the hi-hat. Simple there. The groove is all based around the pattern he's playing in his right hand, okay? Sounds like this. With a pulse in the background so you can hear the time. 3, 4. That pattern stays steady in the right hand all the time, and your left hand is basically playing all of the other notes. So it's pretty simple. You're just kind of going back and forth. See what I mean? It's playing all of the in-between notes, except the very first one. It's just sort of like he leaves that little hole there just because. I don't know why, but that's what he does. Now, you'll see him play this in a number of ways on YouTube or the live concerts with Paul Simon, different variations. And he's also not always playing on the rim. Sometimes he plays that right-hand pattern, kind of falls onto the floor tom a little bit, so you're not always hearing that exact thing. And a lot of times, too, they have a percussion player playing at the same time, so the sound is very full. But what you can do is, always keeping the same pattern, you can kind of play a little bit on the rim and a little bit on the floor tom too. So sort of like this. 3, 4. And when you put the 4 on the floor underneath it, the groove is just there. 3, 4. Add the in-between notes on your toms, going kind of back and forth. You have this, 3, 4. So even though I wasn't playing every note on the rim of the drum and I was kind of going back and forth on the floor tom, I was still doing the exact same pattern. Then a fun thing to do is take that exact same thing and move it around the drum kit, like this. 3, 3, 4. This groove is a lot of fun to play, very energetic, and you can play it anywhere around the drum kit. There you have it, everybody. 4 classic Steve Gadd drum grooves. So much fun. I got a Yamaha kit here, some great Zildjian cymbals. I even picked up some Steve Gadd signature drumsticks. These grooves are fun to play. It's also a great learning experience because you learn independence, groove, feel, backbeat, all of these things, all in these relatively simple grooves. I say relatively simple because when you want to play them musically, they're actually really hard, and that's what makes them so great. Thanks a lot for taking the time to hang out with me today learning these Steve Gadd drum grooves. We'll see you here again soon.